to get his teammates involved first and doesn't force it.
Does anybody have the foot speed to stay in front of Ja Morant?
My greatest strength on the court is being able to see things before they happen.
With an icing on the cake from Ja.
I'm out of my game after Russell Westbrook, just like how he played an all-around game.
Ja Morant has a brilliant career ahead of him.
Making this leap to the NBA means a lot to me. I feel like I do belong here.
Well, the Grizzlies have never been known for their transition game, but transition they must. They traded away Marc Gasol during the season and Mike Conley just before the draft. And with the top two scorers in franchise history now out of the picture, the Grizzlies are turning the page with a new coach, Taylor Jenkins, hired from the Milwaukee bench, and the number 2 pick, Ja Morant, the All-American from Murray State, about 3 hours down the road from Memphis. Set for 6-7 years, this team was grit and grind, defensive-minded, methodical, and tough. But those players and coaches are all gone. What can this new version of the Grizzlies become?
Well, it's a lot to put on Ja Morant. I love the kid. I think if anybody can handle this, Matt, he can. I love his talent, but let's just keep in mind, when he goes out to Beale Street, he's not old enough to order a drink, okay? So not only are you bringing him in as a number 2 pick in the NBA draft, but you just traded away your franchise point guard. So they're going to do some losing in the short term. He's going to struggle in the short term. He's a very grounded kid. I like the fact that he's coming from a Murray State, so I think he can handle it. But it's a lot for this young man to handle. Physically, everything is there you could possibly want. Mentally, emotionally, his maturity is beyond his years. But this is a very, very heavy weight that he has to carry from day one.
Potentially a really interesting combination, pick and roll, just as teammates with Jaren Jackson Jr.
Well, they're going to work great together because Ja has a great feel for it. It's interesting, the comparisons to Russell Westbrook. You heard that a lot during the course of the season. He's much more of a pure point guard than Russell Westbrook. Maybe not quite the athlete, but not that far behind. So I think getting him and Jackson to work together, I think it's going to be perfect.
A lot of people think Ja Morant could be one of the 10, 15 best passers in the league the moment he takes the floor in the NBA. Well, from Memphis to Manhattan, and for once, Knicks fans were happy with their first-round pick. Go figure. Big cheers for R.J. Barrett Thursday night. As expected, the Duke wing went 3rd overall after scoring nearly 23 a game in his freshman season. He joins a Knicks team that's been adrift during 6 straight seasons without making the playoffs. In fact, at the moment, you might argue the team's most prominent roster addition is cap space, of which they have plenty. Sam, this could go a bunch of different directions this summer. How do you handicap it?
Well, if you're the Knicks right now, it's kind of an influx. You got the guy that you wanted, R.J. Barrett, and then you have last year's first-round pick, Kevin Knox, who struggled at times, but hopefully the light comes on. And you said it, the Knicks are looking at free agency, and right now, with Kevin Durant being injured and Kyrie Irving being rumored to go to Brooklyn, what are they going to do with that $70+ million they have? Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant would fit perfectly in that spot, and then the Knicks' problem would be you would have to fill out your roster with a lot of minimum players. And when you look at the current roster, the way it's structured right now, that's not an attractive sight. And with Kevin Durant now being injured, the Knicks right now probably don't know what direction to go in.
The bigger question might be, what do they do if they strike out on the A-listers?
You know what they're going to do? It's going to be a long, long season. R.J. Barrett and Kevin Knox are going to average about 25 shots a game because when you look at this roster, yeah, they have Dennis Smith Jr. and they got some other young pieces, but this is going to be a struggle. If the Knicks cannot attract 2 key free agents, this is going to be another long year for Coach Fizdale. But the bright side is them young players get all the minutes and all the shots, so they'll definitely get a chance to grow and experience the New York crowd.
Don't tell Knicks fans any of that. They've got this whole plan worked out in their heads. The Knicks are banking on bringing in stars. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, the post-LeBron era is lurching forward with an interesting new backcourt. For the 2nd straight year, the Cavs took a point guard with their top pick. Last year, it was Colin Sexton, 8th overall. This time, Darius Garland from Vanderbilt, where he could only play 5 games because of a torn meniscus. Wes, in this day and age, how much do backcourt positions even matter?
Well, they don't matter that much, and we have a great model there in Portland with 2 guards in McCollum and Dame. It's hard to say, right, as that's a comp for Sexton and Garland, but at least we've seen it work. And then when you look at Coach Beilein, the way he played in college, he played a 2-guard front, and those guards were interchangeable, so at least you could say maybe this coach knows exactly how to handle a backcourt like this.
Sure looked like they were thinking offense in terms of the draft. Kevin Love is still part of that roster as well. I don't know what the market will be for him in terms of trades. They've said all along they want to keep him. What's the approach with Love moving forward?
Well, I think with Kevin Love, it's a wait and see. because he's one of the only long-term contracts, along with Larry Nance, that they have on the books. They're not a player in free agency this summer. Right. They're actually currently a tax team at $133 million because they've been taking on money for assets. And we're going to see how they work through this, the expiring contract of J.R. Smith and Brandon Knight and Matthew Dellavedova, John Henson. We're likely to see a couple of those guys be on the move, have it be kind of a pause, a developmental year for the Cavs. But next summer, when they got all that space, those young players, Nance and Love, that's probably when they re-enter free agency.
It'll be really interesting to see how it works with John Beilein moving over from Ann Arbor to be an NBA head coach in Cleveland. Lots more to get to here. Stick with us. On the way, Minnesota on the move, at least up the draft board. What their draft night moves mean to a team that fell back out of the playoffs last season when we come back.
The Netherlands Stroopwafel McFlurry from McDonald's. To get one, you'd have to take a plane, take a train, take a boat, take a bike, and finally order one. Or get to your neighborhood McDonald's now, because for a limited time, worldwide favorites are here.
Gatorade packs carbs to refuel and electrolytes to replenish, so you can bring the heat. Nothing beats Gatorade.
Doesn't that cloud right there look like a penguin?
Really? That looks exactly like a busted pipe spewing water everywhere.
Can you just stop being an insurance agent for like 2 seconds?
It's my job to think about these things.
Well, what does that cloud look like?
That looks just like your house. That's being burglarized. They're stealing your TV right there. Oh, and right there, it's a bear destroying your car.
You need a vacation. Soon. Very soon.
You know, Chris, some of us don't have an off-season.
We build with purpose, with pride, because we build for the builders. The always-on builders, the never-back-down builders, the crack of dawn builders. We build trucks for them, and we've proudly done just that for over a century. So why stop now? There's so much more to build. Built for the builders. The F-150, built Ford proud.
Don't do it.
Anthony Davis?
Choose Mobil 1 Synthetic instead. It protects engines better than conventional motor oil.
Yeah, you look much taller on TV.
The camera adds 6 feet.
Get 250,000 miles of protection. Upgrade to Mobil 1.
1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Give me a break. Give me a break. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
Wandering through secret hills and telling stories round the grill. From lazing out on peaceful docks to raging to a band that rocks. You never know just where in life Corona cans might take you now. Food truck food on city nights with neon burning bright. Digging for Corona cans in coolers full of ice. Never-ending summer nights with cold cans of Corona Light. You never know just where in life Corona cans might take you now.
I'm Jared Culver, Texas Tech University. I'm an elite two-way player.
Remember this name, because this young man can get it done.
The hesitation, the spin, and the lane. Why not? Wow, Culver got the separation. Oh, big shot.
I see myself as determined, motivated, and hardworking. I put in hours and hours to work on my craft and be great at what I do.
Here comes Culver to the rack.
They have a superstar in Jared Culver, one of the best players you've never heard of.
I have a lot to prove. I go out every night trying to prove myself. A lot of people doubted me. A lot of people didn't believe in me, so I stayed true to myself.
Culver up and under, nice move.
When I look in the mirror, I see me working hard every day. I see all the people who doubted me, and I just see myself trying to prove that I can be what I really want to be.
He'll drive, he'll take it in, slithering for two.
And my greatest strength is I'm versatile.
Game recognizes game, and Jared Culver has plenty of that.
I see myself being what people think I'm going to be, but more. People don't have my expectations that I have for myself. I know it's a lot of great players that played in the NBA, and I just want to be one of them.
The Timberwolves tapped a Texas kid with the 6th pick, which they moved up to get in a trade with Phoenix that also sent Dario Saric to the Suns. Jarrett Culver, Pakako. He'll be the first first rounder for Ryan Saunders, who takes over as the head coach full time now. Seth, does Culver fit in with Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, etc., as the Wolves try to climb back into the playoff picture?
No question. One of the key words he used there, Matt, was versatility. He can play a lot of different positions on offense. He can guard a lot of different positions on defense. I think he could guard 1 through 5 today in the NBA. So at that level, he's truly elite. The big question mark that I have for Culver is, will he add the three-point shot to his game? Based on who he was as a college player his first 2 seasons, I think being picked 6th in the draft is high. Keep in mind, though, this is a kid who is not ranked in the top 150 nationally as a recruit. He has worked himself into be a great college player. The one thing that I think is maybe the easiest to add through time and effort is the outside shot. I think he will work hard and add that three-point shot to his arsenal, and when he does, look out.
His coach, Chris Beard, says he's addicted to hoops, and a lot of Timberwolves fans maybe would like to see that rub off on Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, big time cultural addition. I think Andrew Wiggins, if he could attach himself, handcuff himself to Jarrett Culver, he'll spend a lot of time on the practice gym, compete with a lot more tenacity and toughness. I think it's going to be really good for that franchise, but he is a bit of a project, and it'll take some time. He's got to add that three-point shot, or he won't last in the NBA.
Not sure that handcuffing is allowed under team rules, but I get your point. Like the Timberwolves, the Bulls turned their interim coach into a full-timer in the offseason. Jim Boylan got the job, and the Bulls chose him a new point guard in North Carolina's Kobe White. Zach LaVine, remember, returned from injury last season, played really well over 60 games. Lauri Markkanen had a couple of different injuries that cost him time, including fatigue and a rapid heart rate episode that kept him out late in the season. Wendell Carter Jr. also played just 44 games all season because of injuries. So obviously health is number one concern for Chicago moving forward. When healthy, what do the Bulls have now with this roster? How good can they be?
Well, I don't think they're a playoff team yet, but they're building in the right direction. When you said the key player, one of the players I love on that roster, Zach LaVine, we had him in Minnesota, we drafted him. This kid right there has all-star potential. And then you look at Lauri Markkanen, you look at Wendell Carter, like you said, only played 44 games. So they got some pieces, and I like this pick for the Bulls because they have Chris Dunn there, and they need to wake him up. Either he needs to show that promise that everyone had, or he needs to move on. But right now, this Bulls team is young, they're athletic, they're constantly adding pieces right here. But I still think Kobe White is going to be a difference maker for him. When you look at his size, his ability to get downhill, and you pair him in the backcourt with Zach LaVine, you have Zach LaVine at 6'6", 6'7", Kobe White at 6'5", it makes them a better defensive team with the switching that they do in the NBA, and then his ability to get out and push the ball. Zach LaVine is a runner and a scorer, so he's going to love playing with Kobe White.
Does this feel like a core that could be something 2-3 years from now?
It does, but the thing about Chicago, how patient they're going to be. You know, the Bulls have been down for a while, and Zach LaVine right now is continuing to rise. He's an all-star caliber player. You want to see Wendell Carter play a full season to see what he can eventually become, and Lauri Markkanen to see can that group grow together. But they're in a situation right now where they're still ascending, but those young guys need to start showing some promise, or they need to go in a different direction.
All right, we'll move on to the Washington Wizards next. Washington has all kinds of issues with, obviously, John Wall's injury, John Wall's contract moving forward, and at the moment, Wes, they don't have anybody running basketball operations on a full-time basis. Wizards picked Rui Hachimura with the 9th pick, but he can't address all those other issues. I guess the question is, what is a reasonable expectation for a Wizards summer, and how important is it that they make a decision on who's running the show there?
Well, it's critical to have a leader because nothing works without that. But they have Tommy Shepard there, who is a proven veteran executive that is highly respected around the league. And no doubt, whether it's an interim basis or a long-term basis, Tommy Shepard's going to be able to get them through. And then when you turn to the team, you know, they got $114 million in 10 players. And the toughest spot in the NBA is when you lack financial flexibility, but your team isn't good enough.
Right.
And so that's going to be the key for the Wizards moving forward.
Simple question. Is it time to move on from Bradley Beal? Assuming you can't trade the Wall contract right now, is it time to see what you can get for Beal and regroup?
Well, that's been the rumors that people are circling. You know, when we look at the best players potentially available, it was Anthony Davis. The next one is Bradley Beal. But he's extension eligible this summer.
Right.
And they kind of, you know, dodged a bullet when Bradley Beal didn't make All-NBA, which means he's not eligible for the Supermax. So come July, they're looking at a 3-year, $111 million extension that they'll likely offer to Bradley Beal, and that's where it'll get interesting because Bradley has a decision to make, and if he says no, then what do the Wizards do? And I don't think we'll hear any sort of definitive trade decision until that offer has been made, accepted, or declined.
Yeah, some folks in Washington felt like they should have split up that pair long before John Wall's injury. All right, we've got more coming up here. DeAndre Ayton's Suns were active on draft night, and the reviews are mixed. What the Suns mix could look like by summer's end when we return.
You love meat and barbecue. So fall in love with the Papa John's Barbecue Meats Pizza or try our barbecue chicken and bacon pizza. Right now, each is only $12 for a large. Only at Papa John's.
Doesn't that cloud right there look like a penguin?
Really? That looks exactly like a busted pipe spewing water everywhere.
Can you just stop being an insurance agent for like 2 seconds?
It's my job to think about these things.
Well, what does that cloud look like?
That looks just like your house. That's being burglarized. They're stealing your TV right there. Oh, and right there, it's a bear destroying your car.
You need a vacation. Soon. Very soon.
You know, Chris, some of us don't have an off season.
1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Give me a break. Give me a break. Break me.
On TuneIn's Q&A, listen to journalist and host Joe Nocero discuss The Shrink Next Door.
The most surprising thing that happened was when I called Judith, a former patient of Dr. Hirschkoff's. I had not been able to find her, according to the story. But we found her this time, and we called her having no idea how she was going to respond. We'd like to talk to you about Ike Hirschkoff, and she said, oh my God, yeah, let's talk. And it blew me away.
Search and favorite The Shrink Next Door today.
Summer is officially on. Now let's rock.
Check out TuneIn's music channels like Classic Rock Hits to relive the greatest rock songs from the 70s and 80s. Discover the biggest tunes from artists like Santana,
Got a black magic woman.
Pink Floyd, The Beatles, Guns N' Roses, and many more on Classic Rock Hits.
Search Classic Rock on your TuneIn app to start listening.
Hey, baseball fans. Can't watch the game? Can't be there? You can hear the home and away call for every team and every game with TuneIn.
Again, the 3-2. Swinging a line drive up the middle, base hit. 1 run scores. 2 runs will score.
The app that brings together all the live sports, music, news, and podcasts you love in one place. Listen to every MLB game live as it happens or on demand with TuneIn Premium. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying it today.
The ESPY Sweepstakes is your chance to win a trip to the ESPYs and play in the new Apex Legends Pro-Am event. Go to ebay.com/ESPN to donate to the V Foundation for a chance to win. Rules at ebay.com/ESPN.
Going on a road trip this summer? Check out this binge-ready podcast, perfect for long stretches of highway. From Wondery, the people who brought us Dirty John and Dr. Death. The Shrink Next Door is a new stranger-than-fiction story about a celebrity therapist named Ike who isn't what he appears. You'll be on the edge of your seat as Bloomberg journalist Joe Nocera investigates the secrets of the neighbor he thought he knew, uncovering a story of power, control, and trusting the wrong person for 3 decades. Search The Shrink Next Door to save this pod for your next road trip.
This is TuneIn.
I listen to TuneIn when I'm on the train commuting to work.
Volatility this week is raising a lot of anxiety about stocks, as all know.
And this is TuneIn.
To all my favorite podcasts. They are all in the same place, and I never miss them.
Here, as always, with my brother, Christian. Yes.
This is TuneIn, too. Why don't you explore TuneIn today? Podcasts, sports, news, music, and more.
What if you could keep up with network news even when you're on the go? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to Fox News Talk, CNBC, MSNBC, and more without any commercial interruptions. Breaking news without the breaks on TuneIn.
So Booker's there, obviously. They've been looking for a point guard to play alongside him. He's played some point guard himself. They were right there at number 6 where they could have made a point guard pick. What gives?
Well, I don't know what great point guards may have been even available for them at that point, right? Because you had Kobe White, you had Darius Garland, you had John Morant. Those guys are all gone. So this is a best player available type of pick. And again, I think it's a pick that's very intentional with where the league is right now. You got a player, for example, like Jared Culver. He does a lot of things really well. I don't know that Jared Culver does one thing quite as well as Cam Johnson at 6'9", shoots three-pointers. Give me a guy who does one thing great, the most important thing great, and I think it's a worthwhile pick.
It is the defined NBA skill theory. I get it. It makes perfect sense. All right, in Charlotte, the summer's biggest decision certainly isn't their first-round pick. That, of course, is whether to bring back free agent Kemba Walker and at what number. When it was time to make the call at the 12th pick, the Hornets took Kentucky's P.J. Washington, who led the Cats in scoring and rebounding as a sophomore. This is a franchise that is, frankly, mired in mediocrity. They have missed the playoffs 3 straight years, haven't won a playoff series now in 17 seasons. Sam, what kind of steps can they take this summer to get out of this cycle, and where does Kemba fit in that plan?
First of all, you being nice. Mediocre. They've been bad. Well, look, first of all, Kemba Walker has already kind of signaled that he's willing to take less because he understands, and Mitch Kupchak, the general manager, has said, the Charlotte Hornets are not going into the tax to sign Kemba Walker. But if you're Kemba Walker, at some point, you got to ask yourself, you've had a great career thus far in Charlotte, but what does it have? You're not a consistent playoff team. You can't get past the first round. So if I'm Kemba Walker, yeah, I'm looking at the money that Charlotte can potentially offer me, but I'm also going to look around to see what's going to be the best situation, because when you look at this roster right here, yeah, they got a couple young pieces, but they need a whole lot of help. And just bringing Kemba Walker back, think about it, Matt. You bring Kemba Walker back, and what? You're still going to be a mediocre to a bad basketball team, because the albatross hanging around their neck right now is that Nicholas Batum contract. He's not played up to the level of the money. And right now, when you got a guy making that much money that's not producing, it just sinks the whole thing. And if the Charlotte Hornets, to me, they got to make some tough decisions. Even though Kemba wants to stay, they got to ask themselves, do they keep him? Because they need a complete overhaul. They just need to bring in young talent and try to start building this thing from the beginning.
And if they decide no, there will be interest around the league in an all-NBA point guard like Walker. Well, let's stay in the Southeast Division to Miami, a team in a similar spot as the Hornets in some ways. The Heat missed the playoffs in Dwayne Wade's final go-around, and with Hassan Whiteside and Goran Dragic both picking up options for next season worth $27 million and $19 million respectively, they don't have a lot of flexibility or cap room. They do have another shooter on the roster with the acquisition of Kentucky's Tyler Hero with the 13th pick. Wes, what are the options to get better given the way the roster is constructed right now?
Well, first they got to create some financial flexibility. You talked about it. Their current payroll is about $140 million. That's about $8 million into the tax. Your first $5 million cost you $7.5 million in penalty, so it's a lot of money. But it's not just the money, but it's also the flexibility. How do you add to the roster? So when you're looking at, players like maybe Kelly Olynyk, maybe a Dion Waiters, that's why you hear these names in potential trade scenarios. And when we look into free agency, somebody's going to strike out. When someone strikes out, there's a hole. That money, it might be a place where Miami moves some of their players into someone's, empty cap space, and it's a good deal for both. Gets Miami out of the tax, allows them a little more flexibility to add to their team.
Sounds like plan A is wait and hope.
Yeah, well, one thing about the Miami Heat is this is a fantastic franchise.
Yeah.
They spend, they compete, and they develop their players. I never bet against the Miami Heat.
All right. Much more coming up here. Stick around with us. From Eastern Conference favorite to internal combustion, where the Celtics go from here when we return.
Spain's Grand McExtreme Bacon Burger from McDonald's. To get one, you'd have to get to the airport, squeeze into the middle seat, get into an itty-bitty taxi, and finally order one. Or get to your neighborhood McDonald's now, because for a limited time, worldwide favorites are here.
Don't do it.
Anthony Davis?
Choose Mobil 1 Synthetic instead. It protects engines better than conventional motor oil.
You look much taller on TV.
The camera adds 6 feet.
Get 250,000 miles of protection. Upgrade to Mobil 1.
Bandit 3, this is Fox 2-3. Can you see that contact to our front? Man, it's Fox 2-3 out. Mark from tracer fire.
There are those who choose a different path in life. A path of selflessness, of service. A path that leads to freedom. Do you have what it takes? Find out at GoArmy.com/warriors.
We don't follow. We don't back down. We don't need a handout. In fact, we'd rather lend a hand. We're proud to be depended on. Proud to build upon culture. To be proud of where you came from, you have to be going somewhere. Built Ford Proud.
Summertime is grilling time. And Lowe's does summer right with deals on everything you need. So long summer days lead to great summer nights.
Now get Char-Broiled Grill starting at $109.
Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Hey, I'm Zach, CEO of Roman. Some health issues are tough to talk about. With Roman, you can go online, chat with a physician, and if treatment is right for you, we'll ship FDA-approved medication right to your door. Roman, let's take care of it.
Uh-oh. Looks like someone's still nervous about buying a new house.
Is it that obvious?
Yes, it is. You know, maybe you'd worry less if you got Geico to help with your homeowner's insurance.
I didn't know Geico helps with homeowners insurance.
Yeah, they've been doing it for years. What are you doing? Big Steve?
Thanks, man.
There he is.
Get to know Geico and see how much you could save on homeowners and renters insurance.
The NBA Awards return to TNT. Vote now for the only fan-voted award, the House of Highlights Moment of the Year on NBA.com/awards. The 2019 NBA Awards presented by Kia, hosted by Shaquille O'Neal, Monday at 9 on TNT.
A season that began with so much promise in Boston just kept blowing up, and eventually it fizzled out in the second round of the playoffs. Now, most expect Kyrie Irving to leave as a free agent. More surprisingly, Al Horford opted out and is apparently looking to cash in elsewhere with a bigger deal. As usual, the C's had multiple picks on draft night. They took Indiana's Romeo Langford 14th, two-time SEC Player of the Year Grant Williams 22nd, and picked up light-em-up scorer Carson Edwards out of Purdue early in the second round. But it is fascinating how quickly a franchise that was tracking toward what seemed like at least a conference title now apparently has to shift gears and regroup. How do they get out of this?
I think they get out of it by going back to what brought them success in the first place, which was bringing in guys who want to win and guys who are committed to building a winning culture. I think they got stars in their eyes with Kyrie Irving. I mean, Kyrie Irving won a championship in Cleveland, hit the biggest shot of the season, playing alongside maybe the best player of all time, and decided he wanted to leave because he wanted to be the man. So whatever you want to say about Kyrie Irving, winning is not the most important thing to him. It was, I believe, for Isaiah Thomas. I believe it's the most important thing to Grant Williams. I love the Grant Williams pick. He's not Al Horford. I don't know if he's ever going to be as good as Al Horford, but he is that type of player, that type of talent, and that type of character, and that was a step in the right direction. And by the way, I think getting Carson Edwards early in the second round is also good for them as another kind of quasi-under-recruited guy who can be an offensive spark plug off the bench. Romeo Langford, the big question for him in Indiana was his outside shooting, played the whole season, didn't tell anybody about this, with a torn ligament in his thumb, which required surgery to fix, but he didn't want to have the surgery during the season because he wanted to play for Indiana. Indiana kid, huge icon inside the state, made that sacrifice, never complained once about it. I know he's not supposed to be the hardest worker, Sam, but that to me tells me that Romeo Langford wants to win and he's going to give Boston that chance, but they got work to do.
Guys, I love what the Celtics did to be drafting where they are and to get a talent. Romeo Langford's top 5, top 7 talent. And then you look at Grant Williams, two-time SEC Player of the Year, and he's gotten better every year. And then you look at the Boston Celtics. Weston, you know this. The worst thing to be is in the lottery consistently. Why? Because all those young guys, at some point, they look around the room and they look at the numbers and the money and they say, hey, it's only so much money to go around. And that's when the infighting, that's when that green-eyed monster take over. And that's what happened to the Celtics. And then when you go out and sign a Gordon Hayward, and I know what Danny Ainge was thinking. Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, it can put us over the top. We can be a championship team. Yeah, but when it didn't happen, think about this. All those guys in that locker room went to 2 Eastern Conference Finals Game 7 without Kyrie Irving, without Gordon Hayward. So they're sitting there saying, maybe all we needed was another year, more time. So I think Danny Ainge has got to reboot that roster. He got to reset. He and the coach Brad Stevens got to reset that locker room because the Boston Celtics used to be all about team and winning, and they kind of got distracted from that. They still need to thin out that roster, Wes, a little bit more because you still got that money sitting out there, and you still got some young players that want to get paid. But I think they're on the right track with those two kids, the talent, and what Danny Ainge did late in the draft. They had a good night.
Yeah, even with Hayward on the roster, it sure looks like it's going to be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's team in Boston moving forward, and these young additions. To Detroit now, where the Pistons are all in on Blake Griffin, who unfortunately was nearly all out in their first-round playoff loss to Milwaukee. Nonetheless, not a bad first year for Dwayne Casey on the job. Sekou Doumbouya does not turn 19 until December. He was their pick at number 15, first international player to go in the draft. So what's the outlook in Motown for the summer, Sam?
Well, they don't have a lot. You've got Blake Griffin. He's been battling injuries. You got Andre Drummond. But I like this pick in Sekou. And I'll let you say the last name.
Doumbouya.
There you go. Booyah. But I like the pick. Where did Dwayne Casey come from? Toronto. Who did they take? Pascal Siakam. And I think when they saw this young man, 18 years old, long, athletic, I think they saw Pascal Siakam like in him. And when you look at him, long, athletic, he can score inside. Look, Pascal had to add to his game, add the outside shooting, but this kid is active, he's long, he can defend, and at 18 years old, the upside there, and when you look at Pascal Siakam, where he's come from, and 2 years ago, I remember sitting there with Leo Routon, looking at Siakam, and I love this kid because you could just see him trending in the right direction. If this kid can be anything like Siakam's going to be, we think he's going to be an all-star in Toronto, this kid has a chance, a good pick, a good start for the new regime in Detroit.
Problem is, based on the intel you read, he is years away from being Pascal Siakam. I don't know if they're going to be that patient playing around Blake Griffin. Like Detroit, Orlando returned to the postseason under a new coach last season. In fact, I don't feel like people really noticed this, but the Magic made a 17-game improvement under Steve Clifford before falling to the champion Raptors in the first round. On draft night, they surprised many by taking Auburn's Chuma Okeke, who tore his ACL in the turning, won't be available right away. Big picture, though, Wes, how do they keep the momentum forward?
Well, it started with defense, and that's why they were good with Steve Clifford. And having Coach Pearl here last night to talk about Chuma Okeke, he's going to fit in perfectly. But it gets complicated for Orlando when you start managing the cap situation for them. They have two key free agents, Terrence Ross and Vucevic. If they don't re-sign both, they have $17 million in room, so they can't replace them.
Right.
There's a ton of money on the market. We got 10 teams with over $25 million in cap room who are going to be going after players like Vucevic and Terrence Ross. So it's going to put pressure on Orlando to re-sign these guys. If they don't re-sign them, it's going to be difficult to replace them. And, Orlando also has a little bit of roster balance that they got to figure out with Bamba, Isaac, Okeke, Vucevic, Mozgov. So it's going to be an interesting summer. It's going to be a juggling act for Orlando. But, with John Hammond and Jeff Weltman, they're in good hands to try to get this thing figured out.
You could argue Vucevic is integral to what they do. They play through him so much offensively. At the same time, you don't want him to impede the progress of those young bigs they have on the roster. The Pacers were also a big surprise for much of last season, but they suffered a major blow when Victor Oladipo went down midseason. Of course, there is some news on that front. Team president Kevin Pritchard told reporters Oladipo may not return to the floor for Indiana until December or even January. The timeline for Oladipo's recovery has been uncertain since he ruptured the quadriceps tendon in his right knee in late January. Indiana went 16-23 in the regular season and playoffs after he was hurt. Remember, the Pacers will be without Tyreke Evans. He was banned by the league for a violation of the substance abuse policy. On draft night, Indy also went big and international with 6'11" Goga Bitadze, the MVP of the Adriatic League, and he played for the same team that produced Nikola Jokic and Ivica Zubac. So, Sam, what should summer look like in Indy?
Well, it's going to be tough for them. I like the draft pick because they needed to add some size, but without Victor Oladipo, and you're uncertain about him, you're talking about an all-star caliber player, a two-way player that can get you 22, 23 points a game, that's a lockdown defender. So it's going to be tough. But when I look at their free agents, I like Bogdanovich. They got to try to bring him back. You're talking about a guy who can defend his position, who can play the 2 and 3, who can knock down threes. So to me, he's the key. And then you're looking at Thaddeus Young. Will they have enough money to bring back a guy like him? Again, that hybrid 4 who, again, he's not a great three-point shooter. He's a great guy in the locker room. He can knock down the three, but he's one of those guys that a coach loves because you don't have to manage him. All you have to do is just coach Thad, put him out there, tell him what to do, and he is a pro's pro. So it's going to be up in the air for Indiana. Nate McMillan has done an unbelievable job, he and Kevin Pritchard, but without your best player in the fold and you don't know when he's going to be back and how healthy he's going to be, everything is in flux right now.
Generally true in the NBA. Teams suffer without their best players on the floor. Not as good. You can take that to the bank. Still ahead. They're still celebrating in Toronto, at least until Kawhi Leonard makes his decision. We'll get into the champs summer next.
Cole, appreciate you recommending these stormproof windows. No problem. I'm always thinking ahead.
Clutch, no! Not Ramon, look under the couch. You look under the couch. I'll help you deal with this.
Well, the windows still look good.
We build with purpose, with pride, because we build for the builders. The always-on builders, the never-back-down builders, the crack-of-dawn builders. We build trucks for them, and we've proudly done just that for over a century. So why stop now? There's so much more to build. Built for the builders. The F-150, built Ford proud.
Look, isn't that Frank Thomas?
Oh, the big hurt.
More like the big hunk.
Yeah.
Wow, Frank Thomas.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You look like you could still be playing. That's what I said.
Well, I am feeling stronger and leaner. So, Frank, what's your secret? I discovered Nugenics.
I wish my husband did.
It's easy. Just send a text.
If you're a guy over 40, text 42424 and enter the word SHINE. Get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Nugenics is a unique man-boosting formula powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone levels, to help you feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive, more passion, too.
Here, try a bottle. And trust me, she'll like it too.
Text 42424 and enter SHINE to get a complimentary bottle of Nugenics. Samples are not available in stores, so text 42424 and enter SHINE.
After 24 years in existence, the Raptors brought an NBA championship to Canada, beating the depleted Warriors in 6 games, validating the gamble that Masai Ujiri made last summer when he made the trade for Kawhi Leonard, fired the Coach of the Year, Dwayne Casey, and promoted Nick Nurse. And champagne was flowing in Toronto. Is that Canadian champagne? Is
oh, come on.
U.S. champagne? Is it?
It all tastes the same
imported?
going down, man. Don't matter.
Or poured on top of your head?
I guarantee you this, it was
way.
cheap champagne, probably, because if I'm spilling it all over the room, it's not going to be no Moet or no Dome.
All this information is relevant and important, by the way, but obviously the most important question is the name you see in the middle of the screen there, Kawhi Leonard, and will he return? And what can the Raptors do in terms of their approach to the summer until they know what his answer is?
Nothing. You ever heard us saying the elephant in the room? Well, the claw in the room. Kawhi Leonard's decision. Look, everything rests among what his decision is going to be. And until Kawhi makes a decision, there's not much the Raptors can do. But if Kawhi comes back and talking to Masai, he really believes this team has a chance to be the Golden State Warriors of the East and have a 5 or 6 year run. Think about it. Kyle Lowry comes off the books after next year. That's $31 million. Then you have a guy like Pascal Siakam who you've developed that's going to be ready to move into that side. Fred VanVleet is ready to step into that Kyle spot. And then you look at their bench. You look at all the young players they have. This team is well constructed. Now, they do have to figure out what they're going to do with Marc Gasol. He's probably going to opt in. He has player option to opt in. And then if you can get him and add another year or two to West Point at a very cap-friendly number around $5 to $7 million a year, you can keep this nucleus together. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, other than Milwaukee, who is poised to beat them? Think about it. Other than the Milwaukee Bucks, the Toronto Raptors have the best player, maybe in basketball, best two-way player, and they have the deepest bench when you look at them. So this Raptors team is poised to go on a 3 to 5 year run if
If
the claw will put down those hands in Toronto, and I think there's a good chance. What else can the Raptors do? Load management. He only played 60 games during the regular season.
Right.
His health was number one, and two, they won the championship. So they've done everything possibly that they can do, and they're in position to offer Kawhi the most money. So it's all on Kawhi right now.
They've done their job. Remember, after falling behind 2-0 against the Bucks, they kind of exposed Milwaukee at the end of that series. And now, after a 60-win season that led the league, they're a little exposed financially here and in terms of the cap because of all those free agents you see there. And those are some awfully good and important players to Milwaukee.
Well, this is what happens when you build a great team. Now you got to try to figure out how to keep it. And that really starts with Brook Lopez. Last summer, one of the best signings, signed him for just over $3 million, but he's a non-bird free agent, which means they can only offer him 120% on that $3 million number, or they have to renounce him, create room elsewhere, and then use their cap room to re-sign him. And that's why you saw on draft night, they made that trade with Detroit to move the 30th pick, right? They traded Tony Snell for John Lure, and now they may do something with John Lure to create even more money, maybe even like a wave and stretch scenario that can take them to almost $13 million in room to $19 million in room. So this is financial engineering at its absolute best with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Short answer here. Could they theoretically sign all the important core pieces?
Probably not Mirotic unless they wave and stretch John Lure, and then they have $19 million to split amongst Brook Lopez and Mirotic. But that probably doesn't get it done based upon what we expect the market to be this July.
I'm getting a headache. There's a lot of
this is fun. Come on, let's keep going.
Involved with Milwaukee and the Caps.
I'm just nodding like I know what he's
You
talking
can tell Boy Wonder over there.
Absolutely.
Baby Genius. Baby Genius is loving this.
What these guys do.
This is fun.
Crunch the numbers. All right, to Philadelphia now. And the 76ers, despite a good season, and maybe they beat the Raptors if those bounces don't go Kawhi's way. They're barely a team right now because they don't have very many people under contract. Lots of questions in Philly.
Well, lots of questions, but one thing they don't lack are people who want to score, people who want to shoot, especially if Jimmy Butler comes back. So in that respect, I think it's a smart pick for them to choose Matisse Thybulle. He was the best defender in college basketball last season, a terrific athlete, and I think that he'll move well with Joel Embiid and company. And look, the thing about Thybulle is he played in the 2-3 zone, so there's some question about, is his defense really going to translate to the NBA? Syracuse guys, Mike Hopkins was a former Syracuse assistant. They played that Syracuse 2-3 zone. Those guys kind of get labeled in terms of the NBA. I do think at some point Thybulle is going to have to establish an offensive game if he's going to stick in the NBA. There aren't a lot of people playing for a long time, making a lot of money in the NBA purely as perimeter defender. So he's going to have to add an offensive game.
Well, they've got a lot of questions to answer there as well in terms of free agents, who's staying, who's going, who will be on the roster next season. We continue. Moving on, we'll get to the five-time Western Conference champs in just a moment. The Warriors coming up in the next segment. Right now, the Brooklyn Nets, who have been building this culture along the way. They've established themselves as the kind of team that players, notably high-profile free agents, may want to join. There's the cap situation right now. They did not have a first-round pick because they traded it away. What's the summer look like for them?
This is similar to Milwaukee, but in a different way. They're just creating more cap room, trying to find that magic number for them is about $70.5 million. That'll fit a 10 years of service, i.e. Kevin Durant, max player, and a 7 to 9 years of service, max player in Kyrie Irving. So what we've seen them do is they've renounced or did not offer Rondae Hollis-Jefferson a qualifying offer, so now he's an unrestricted free agent. They have the 17th pick in the draft. They attach with Alan Crabb's $18.5 million contract, move it to Atlanta to create more cap room in that scenario, and then they have another pick later in the draft that they moved on to the Clippers to create even more room. So they're at about $68.5 million of room, about $1.2 million away from having the absolute maximum needed to sign two max players. All they got to do is move Zadon Musa, and they're there.
Just based on buzz around the league, is Kyrie or another A-lister coming to Brooklyn?
Well, it's amazing how much talk there is right now that it is a done deal that Kyrie Irving is going to Brooklyn. But the player we haven't talked about is all-star that they have at the point guard in D'Angelo Russell. So it's interesting because he has a $21 million cap hold. So if for some reason Kyrie goes elsewhere, they can still hold D'Angelo all the way through the moratorium. And everyone talks about these offer sheets, which is important, right? Some team can put a big number on D'Angelo Russell. But as long as Brooklyn holds his cap hold, that clock doesn't start until July 6th, which gives Brooklyn till July 8th, basically, to find out what Kyrie and the other free agents are going to do before they make a decision with D'Angelo Russell.
And
so
match
Brooklyn,
or not match.
Match or not match. And so Brooklyn's in fantastic position. Sean Marks, masterful job of putting himself in this position.
They've done a phenomenal job of building that whole thing in terms of culture, in terms of roster, and of course the cap implications as well. All right, more coming up here. One of those free agent targets out there, Kevin Durant, obviously out for almost certainly all of next season. What does that mean for Golden State, their free agency situation, and their summer when we come back?
There are those who stand forever ready. Ready to defend the nation. Ready to fight for what matters. No matter what.
Do
you have what it takes? Find out at goarmy.com/warriors.
Cole, appreciate you recommending these stormproof windows.
No problem. I'm always thinking ahead.
Clutch, no! Man, Ramon, look under the couch. You look under the couch. I'll help you deal with this.
Well, the windows still look good.
We don't follow. We don't back down. We don't need a handout. In fact, we'd rather lend a hand. We're proud to be depended on. Proud to build upon culture. To be proud of where you came from, you have to be going somewhere. Built Ford proud.
Who are you?
I am failure.
Failure. I thought I defeated you.
Perhaps. But more success sows more doubt.
That doesn't concern me.
Your weakness should concern you.
I still remember how to beat you.
Well, the Warriors' situation is simple, if not easy to solve, of course. 5 straight Western Conference titles and trips to the finals. Catastrophic season-ending injuries to 2 guys who are max-type free agents. You couldn't have scripted this any worse for Golden State. So what now?
Yeah, it's bad for Golden State. Look, they're going to have to do something, probably max out Durant and Klay Thompson. Both of those guys got injured during their watch. And second, so what do? If I'm Golden State, how much do you play Steph Curry next year? Do you grind him and wear him out? Obviously, he's got to play, but how do you build a team when arguably the first best two-way player, Kevin Durant, is probably going to miss the season, and who knows how long Klay Thompson's going to be out? I think the Golden State Warriors got to do the right thing for those 2 guys, and then they got to try to, if I'm Golden State with Durant and Klay Thompson probably missing the season, I'm going to focus on building my bench and the players around them, so when they do come back, I'm going to have a healthy Steph, hopefully Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Durant. But the reason the Warriors, to me, couldn't beat the Raptors, they had no depth. And that's what happens, Wes, and you know this. When you have a championship team and you have to start paying everybody, what suffers is your depth. And what killed them this year, they didn't have any bench to go to. So if I'm the Warriors, I'm going to focus on building my bench, let these young guys play and develop, and then hopefully Durant and Klay Thompson come back the following year and be ready to start back where they left off.
Well, the bench was a question all season long, and then they got to the finals, and with the injuries, they just didn't have many bodies to go to against the Raptors. Well, this could create an opportunity for somebody else in the Western Conference. Maybe that somebody's the Portland Trailblazers, guys. They reached the Western Conference Finals last year. Nasir Little was their pick on draft night. with the 25th overall pick. What's the outlook for tweaking that roster moving forward?
Well, not going to be a whole lot of changes, obviously. I mean, they have one of the great backcourts in the NBA, and Lillard and McCollum. And, Nasir Little was an interesting story on draft night. Here's a guy who came out of high school as a consensus top 5 recruit and had kind of an iffy year at North Carolina, just didn't have a lot of offensive polish. He's very physically talented. I mean, he is an NBA athlete right now. So if he dedicates himself on the defensive end of being a complementary player to those guys, then I think that he'll fit in well. But I think it's going to take him some time to develop his offensive game. I would not expect Nasir Little to be an impact player as a rookie. There's a reason why he slid down as far as he did.
It'll be interesting to see if the Blazers can hang on to some of the depth they acquired during the season, Cantor and Hood and the rest. And, of course, Yusuf Nurkic will come back at some point from that horrific injury in April. The Rockets went from being within a game of reaching the NBA Finals a year ago to the stark reality that they weren't good enough to beat Golden State, even without Kevin Durant on the floor, and now apparently to some sort of chaos in Houston. What the heck is going on there?
Well, expectations, if not met, results in consequences, and that's what this is. It's interesting in this little group. We have the Warriors, we have the Blazers, and we got the Houston Rockets, and none of them have flexibility. And it all comes down to Chris Paul at $38 million and what they're going to do. How do they create flexibility? $76 million when you include Harden just in those two players. They got to figure it out so they can create a little flexibility, which is very difficult to do with all that money in those big contracts, because they got to find a way to add some depth to this team.
Is it possible to move Chris Paul with that contract?
It's never impossible, but I would just say it's going to be hard. Now, if a team out there, that strikes out in free agency, needs a point guard, has $25 million in room and maybe a $12 million bad contract or a $13 million bad contract, then you could see something like that where they exchange back into the money, move the money off, maybe get a year off the money. But then the problem with Houston is they still want to be good. They still want to be a contender. Right. And is no Chris Paul absent, or plug in another player, what does that do for you? It's a really tricky spot for the Houston Rockets.
Continuing our inflexibility theme, we go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are capped out as well. They are very expensive, obviously really good high-end talent as well, but not a lot of room to move. And they drafted a kid who didn't even play last season, Darius Bazley, who came out of high school and basically sat out what would have been his 1 year in college.
So when Darius Bazley surprised everybody, including Jim Boeheim, at the McDonald's All-American game, saying he's going to not play in college, he's going to go to the G League. That was the plan, to go to the G League. And then he signed an agent, and the agent said, you're crazy if you're going to try to play in the G League because you're going to get exposed down there. Those are grown men playing for dinner. So they basically hid him for a year, got him a nice little shoe deal to help him pay the grocery bills. And so for college basketball, the implications are interesting because he ends up being a first-round pick. But again, as far as him having an immediate impact on a team in Oklahoma City who is just kind of, I think, stuck where they are, not good enough to get over the top, but not bad enough to rebuild, obviously, an all-world player in Russell Westbrook and no flexibility with the cap. So I don't see Darius Bazley as solving those problems.
You got $1 million for that internship. Those are some high-end groceries you're talking about.
I'm available. Similar one, right?
I'm available. Really good groceries.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Westbrook-Paul George pairing, obviously the talent is there. How effective is it moving forward? Can they build around that still, or are they, as Seth put it, are they stuck?
They don't have a choice. They have to. Look, we're talking about Paul George, who's an MVP candidate. We're talking about Russell Westbrook, who's been an MVP and done some amazing things. They still are a very good basketball team. We're forgetting about Steven Adams. They have a solid guy in the center. But the question is, can they go the hump? But think about it. The Warriors are in flux. We don't know what Golden State's going to be right now. So if you look at this Oklahoma City team, they got to feel pretty good. They got two all-stars, two legit all-stars. So they still have a chance next year to compete and win the West because Paul George, if he picks up where he left off this past season, he has a chance to be MVP. And Westbrook, I think the light bulbs may come on for him because he's starting to understand that having these triple-doubles mean absolutely nothing during the regular season if it don't translate over to winning and advancing in the playoffs.
Got to find some shooters, right, to surround those guys with. Got to find some three-point shooting in Oklahoma City. It's been an issue for years now. More coming up here. LeBron James and the Lakers now have Anthony Davis on their side and a lot of other spots to fill in around. We'll get into that next.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. MicroTouch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro-precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full-body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go Solo. Call 1-800-418-2838 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
This summer, you could check everything off the to-do list. Like book a table at the hottest new restaurant. Update your wardrobe with some brand new kicks. Go see the biggest shows at the coolest venues. Pack everything you can into every single day. Or you could take it from summer's favorite beer and just throw that checklist to the breeze and let yourself summer.
All will be revealed
when the NBA award winners are announced.
Which of these most valuable players is the most valuable? I can't see anything. Who gave me this, Barkley?
The 2019 NBA Award Show presented by Kia, Monday at 9 on TNT.
Well, players of Anthony Davis's caliber aren't just hanging around, and it costs something to get them. The Lakers paid a heavy price in terms of their young core to land AD. Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, gone, and gone. They also sent the 4th pick, which landed in the Hawks' hands eventually and became DeAndre Hunter. But the mission this summer for the Lakers is really clear. You've got LeBron James, you've got Anthony Davis. Time to fill in around what could be, they hope, a championship caliber team. How do they get it done?
Well, and add Kyle Kuzma, as those are the 3 building blocks. And prior to this trade, they got $32.5 million in cap room. After the trade, assuming Anthony Davis takes his full trade kicker, they got $23.6 million in cap room. So the question for the Lakers is how do they maximize this room? And there's a way for them to get more than 23.6, but that requires AD waiving the kicker. That may include expanding the trade, adding players like Bonga, Wagner to a 3rd team, and then treating how you take AD in. So this is a really interesting situation to how they can maximize this room, but then we got to figure out how to spend the room, right? And which players, and are they going to do that on one guy and build a super team, or are they going to spread that $23 to $30 million out into a couple players and create a little bit of depth?
And there's opinions are all over the place on that, whether you go for the big 3, if you don't count Kuzma in that, or if you spread it around and have good quality role players around those guys. Meanwhile, also at Staples Center, the LA Clippers are thought to be a suitor for a lot of those A-list free agents. They did buy into the draft and pick 27th overall for Fiondo Kabengele out of Florida State. But you're talking about a team that could be in the running for Kawhi Leonard if he chooses to lead Toronto, and a lot of other guys. How likely is it in your mind that they land an A-lister?
I think they have an extra chance. First of all, they got the consummate pro of a coach in Doc Rivers. This guy is a player's coach. He can talk to these guys. He can get the most out of them. And if you look at what Doc did with that roster last year, to get them into the playoffs and to compete with the Golden State Warriors like they did. He did an unbelievable job. But the Clippers right now are sitting back waiting on free agency. They did a lot of things to clear cap room to sign a Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant. So the key is, does Kawhi want to come back to L.A.? If Kawhi comes to L.A. and leaves Toronto, then all bets off. Then the Clippers right now would be the best team or a chance to be the best team in L.A. But again, it all depends on free agents. Can they get the right guy? Because the thing that Doc Rivers realized, he now has a team of coachable players, and he likes players who will listen, who are coachable. And what he's proven is you don't necessarily have to be a good team. You can do it without a superstar, but to have a chance to be a great team and compete for a championship, you need at least one, and they're hoping that guy with the big hands, Kawhi Leonard, is coming back home to L.A., baby.
All right, let's get to Denver, and a great season in the Mile High for the Denver Nuggets. Did not have a first-round pick, but frankly, probably don't need one, right? With all the depth they have, all the good young players they have as well. They do have the Paul Millsap situation to deal with in terms of unrestricted free agents, but they've got great young talent, starting with Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, so we had talked earlier in the show about the Boston Celtics, and when they had their run, they did it by getting players who played well together, who wanted to win, who were committed to winning, and a great culture. You talk about Jamal Murray, talk about Gary Harris, you talk about the Joker. Those are guys who fit well together. They were able to get Bol over from the Heat, who fell all the way down to the second round, based purely on talent, and fully healthy. Bol is a top 5 draft pick. Now, whatever was going on with his medical, I don't know if they found a parasite or what they found, but you're talking about a broken foot. I'm shocked that I clearly didn't expect him to be picked that high. I saw him play quite a bit in high school. He is a very unique talent at 7'2", can shoot threes, put it on the deck. Maybe he pans out, stays healthy, has a great NBA career. I sure hope so.
Maybe so. I don't know. Utah Jazz made a huge deal that maybe isn't getting the attention it deserves, bringing in Mike Conley. This was a match that sort of had to happen, right? It just made so much sense for the Grizzlies to move on from Conley and his contract, and for Utah, with Ricky Rubio a free agent now, to play alongside Donovan Mitchell. This made perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, we thought this would happen last year at the trade deadline. But, you know, last year when LeBron James goes from the Eastern to the Western Conference, there was an arms race in the East. We're looking at the exact same thing happening in the Western Conference right now, and the Jazz are participating. The injuries in Golden State creates an opening, and Mike Conley, the addition of him along with Donovan Mitchell, and the other thing that's really interesting, they got to take Conley into cap space, which means they're a room team. And they have a $16 million contract that's non-guaranteed with Derek Favors that they have an option on until July 5th. So what they get to do is they get to shop the free agent market and say, maybe there's a better complement to us in free agency, that if they find and agree to a contract, then maybe they waive Derek Favors. Derek Favors goes to the free agent market and they backfill with that other $16 million player. Or if they can't find someone that they feel good about, they keep Favors, which obviously has solidified them as one of the best defensive front courts in the NBA. Great job of managing this roster, managing this payroll, building this team. The Jazz have a ton of options to get even better come July.
And again, because of the Warriors situation, this has a team with high-end talent that's got a real shot at making some noise in the Western Conference playoffs. We'll get to Dallas when we come back. Luka Doncic, the prohibitive favorite as Rookie of the Year. Kristaps Porzingis still there. What else could be coming to Big D?
Selling on Poshmark is crazy simple. All you have to do is post a picture, add a description, add a price, and you're pretty much good to go. Right now I'm selling Air Jordans and Nikes and Adidas, anything really performance related or style related.
Download the free Poshmark app now.
Lowe's knows you're the deal hunter who does things right, who's armed with research and finally ready to roll. We do it right too, with huge savings on the brands you want. So happy hunting. Shop now for appliance savings like these. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
I can't believe it. That I won the Best of Sweepstakes and I get to be in this Geico commercial?
Let's do the eyebrows first. Just tease it a little.
Slather it all over. Go no back.
Well, the squirrels followed me all the way out to California, and there's a very strange badger staring at me.
No, I can't believe how easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on my car insurance with Geico.
Uh-huh. Where's the camel?
Mr. Big Shot's got his own trailer.
Roll out, rush in, drop back, defend on.
Believe it. Geico could save you 15% or more on your car insurance.
Hey, isn't that Frank Thomas?
Yeah, the big hurt.
More like the big hunk.
Frank Thomas?
Oh, hi there.
Well, you look like you could still be playing.
I know, right?
Well, I'm feeling a lot stronger and leaner, with a lot more energy and drive.
So what's your secret?
Nugenix Total T.
Wish my husband used it.
He can. It's easy. Just send a text.
If you're a guy over 40, text SET to 231-231 now to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenix, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Nugenix is a unique man-boosting formula powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone levels, to help you feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive, more passion too.
Here, try a bottle. And trust me, she'll like it too.
Text SET to 231-231 now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. That's SET to 231-231.
The post-Dirk Nowitzki era has begun in Dallas. Kristaps Porzingis, a restricted free agent who has indicated he wants to stay in Dallas. The love connection has been established there. Luka Doncic is the future of this team, obviously, in West. They've got money.
Yeah, they got $29 million, maybe a little more than that, depending upon how you handle their minimum cap holds. This team comes down to Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, $29 million in room, and they've been connected continuously across the NBA to Kemba Walker, and they just happen to need a point guard. This is a team to watch as a rising team in the Western Conference.
Al Horford's name I've heard for them as well.
He's another one we've heard. It's just not quite as easy to see the fit with Porzingis.
With Porzingis, right.
You know, because they have such a need at the point guard position. But look, if they didn't get, Kemba Walker, they certainly would be willing to bring on a player like Al Horford.
The Sacramento Kings are another team with a whole bunch of money to spend. Harrison Barnes has opted out, so he is available at the moment. But, Sam, this is, again, another team with good young talent there and money to spend moving forward.
Yeah, and it's time for the Sacramento Kings to make a jump. They got the money. They got the young talent. I love De'Aaron Fox at the point guard position. I like Marvin Bagley III. I like the young talent, but at some point, that young talent got to come together and start winning basketball games. And I think the key for them is finding the right veteran free agents. They need some older guys, not old, but they need some guys 26, 27 years old who's been in the league 4 or 5 years, who knows their way around, and who has won. Because in West, you know this, when you've been losing for so long, and these young guys now, they just been playing for stats and improve their pay status. They need to start understanding there's a difference between just playing NBA basketball and playing winning NBA basketball. And I think right now the Kings are at a point now and I know Vlade Divac, who's won championships, he's ready for a winner. So they're going to look for the right guy to plug in, the right type of veterans to plug in with this young talent to teach these young guys how to win. Because think about it. All these guys came from winning programs in college. But at some point during the NBA, when you've lost 80 to 100 games on a consistent basis, it starts wearing thin on you, and you forget how to win. And they need some guys to come in to remind these young players that they've won before and they can win again at the NBA level.
Worse yet, it can become a habit, and they were flirting with a playoff spot for a good chunk of the season, faded down the stretch. The Spurs made the playoffs again. That's not exactly news. Also drafted an international player. That's not exactly news. Luka Samanic. Keldon Johnson, a lot of people feel like might have been a steal at number 29.
Yeah, again, a little bit of a surprise that he went as late as he did. Made a couple of David West comparisons during the draft last night. I think Keldon Johnson is that type of player, just a solid guy who has a lot of offensive potential, and obviously joining a franchise like the Spurs. I think of a player like Bryn Forbes, who came out of Michigan State after transferring over. Wasn't really a lights-out offensive player in college. He was a specialist as a three-point shooter. So I think Keldon Johnson hopefully can make that type of offensive improvement because he's bigger than Bryn Forbes and a lot more versatile, and he can guard multiple positions. I think it's a great fit culturally for that organization.
Well, maybe their most important additions are guys who are already on the roster. DeJounte Murray, and Lonnie Walker are both coming back from injuries and should be ready to go for San Antonio next season. All right, lots more ahead here as we continue to review, and we'll look ahead. Free Agent Fever coming up Sunday, June 30th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember, free agency officially begins at 6 p.m. Eastern Time this year. Be there on Sunday for all the fireworks.
Everybody has sunglasses, but most sunglasses just make everything darker and are useless when it comes to blinding glare. Not these. Nick Bolton here with the latest from Bell & Howell. We call them tack glasses. Inspired by the sunglasses worn by our heroes in uniform, TAC glasses can do things no ordinary sunglasses can do, like block blinding glare so well, invisible objects suddenly become visible. Look, ordinary sunglasses just make things darker, which could be deadly in a tactical situation. TAC glasses improve optical clarity so you can see clearly, even in low light. If you've never seen how this light filtering technology works, check this out. Nothing to see, right? But look again as we hold up our TAC glasses. A colorful American eagle is revealed. Amazing.
Take a look at the screen.
Yes.
What do you see?
I see a plain white screen.
It's just a plain white screen.
Now look up through our sunglasses.
Whoa, this is cool.
How does it do that? That is so awesome.
What?
Oh my.
Whoa, what? That is so cool. That is amazing. How does it do that? It's like an eagle pops out of nowhere.
Very, very cool.
Whether you're on the trail or on the golf course, on the water or on the slopes, with TAC glasses, you'll always see clearly without any glare. There's just nothing like it on the market today.
Act now to get your TAC glasses for just $19.99 with free shipping. We'll also include a blank card that reveals our American Eagle when you put on your TAC glasses. Order today and you can also get our night vision TAC glasses. Just pay a separate fee. They help protect your natural night vision to improve optical clarity in low light. You can get both, so don't delay. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-998-3893 or go to trytacglasses.com. Again, that's 1-800-998-3893 or order online at trytacglasses.com. That's 1-800-998-3893.
I think it'll make my job easier, honestly, having great talent here. But I'm going to still, like I've been doing, study my teammates and try to find their strengths and learn where they're comfortable at or where they want to have the ball. And with that, I think we'll be great.
Megan.
Megan Rice, News Channel 3 Sports. This question is for Ja. Ja, not only are you the number 2 pick in the draft, but also kind of getting the keys to the franchise, you and JJ, or Triple J, I should say. What does that mean, and what kind of pressure does that give you, knowing you're the future of the franchise and it starts now?
I don't think it's no pressure, but obviously I have some big shoes to fill from Mike Conley. He's a great player. I wish him the best, and I just want to thank Memphis Grizzlies as a whole for believing in me and having that trust in me to pick me and put me in the position that I'm in.
Over here.
Ed Marlowe, Paducah Sun. Hey, Ja. Congratulations. Welcome to Memphis. My question for you was, obviously, you wanted the opportunity to play over the summer. You iterated last night that may not be a possibility. What will you do this summer as far as your preparation and your expectations and things like that leading into the NBA season?
I think I'm going to be doing what I've been doing most of my life. Just keep working and continue to get better, but not only on the floor but off the floor as well. Just try to be the best Ja I can be.
The Ja can be in the Summer League setting. Salt Lake City as the Grizzlies take on the Jazz Monday, July 1st, 9 Eastern Time. Summer League is here. First, one last look at Thursday night's draft in Brooklyn.
What's good? Draft day. Just got the first cut, about to get dressed. I'm excited for it.
There's a few hours from the draft right now. All the work we put in this past season, to see it all pay off, it's going to feel real good. And my suit fits perfectly. I'm excited.
I'm getting ready to go. On the inside, my favorite part, actually, I got my country in there. Got my suspenders. Everything's coming together nice.
You don't realize that the suit is important until you get a little older. They said we should go with the cream white. So my mom hasn't steered me wrong to this point, so I said, all right, let's do it.
Felt like I looked good in pinstripe. I just had to choose the color, and I wanted to be different. The feeling hasn't hit yet. Probably when I get on that bus, probably.
Congratulations. Everybody's dressed, everybody's ready, and we're on our way there now. So definitely starting to hit now. You're thinking about you actually gonna be in the NBA.
I'm nervous. I'm excited, but nervous at the same time. I got a little butterflies on my stomach.
I mean, alligator skin? I mean, that's tough. Like, you either gonna love it or you gonna know fashion.
Welcome to the NBA Draft 2019 in Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Just about set.
Wait, one more time, baby.
As every second goes by, I'm just getting more and more excited, just kind of waiting to finally hear my name called.
With the first pick, the New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson from Duke University.
You know, you dream about these things, and you work hard for the chance it'll happen. And to hear my name called number 1, couldn't ask for much more than that.
With the second pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select Ja Morant from Murray State University.
It's crazy. I'm trying not to tear up and stuff over here, man. It's just so surreal. I can't believe it. It's good. Hey, time to go say what's up to the Lord. Hey, it was good. I know what time it is. Grit and grind, baby. Yeah.
The New York Knicks select R.J. Barrett from Toronto and Duke University.
My son, you did it. You did it. I'm so proud of you. So proud of you.
Yes, sir. Boy, let me see my boy. Man, I can't believe this, bro. Like, my heart is still racing. Like, bro, like, you already went on the stage. Calm down. The night has been a crazy night. Dream accomplished, but I'm not done yet. Stay tuned.
Great.
I don't even know what to say. I just felt so many emotions at once. I'm so happy and so honored to be here.
Me, number 1, my dream came true. So I'm just ready to work.
Boy, you can only imagine what's going through their minds. It's got to be spinning, all these interviews, all the attention, all the responsibility. We've been talking about how these teams should approach their summer. How about these rookies? What should their summer look like? What's the best, smartest way to go about it?
Forget about last night. Put it in your memory bank. Every now and then, put it on a video and watch it. But forget about it. I tell all rookies, whatever got you here is got you here. But what you do going forward is what's going to keep you there. It's great. Remember that night. But now the hard works begin, because every year there's a new prom queen. So if you don't establish yourself and prove yourself, guess what? The general managers and the coach, they're going to fall in love with somebody else totally different in that first round if you don't live up to expectations.
I think the same can be said of the teams. I think in today's NBA, building through the draft is very limited. I think most of what we saw last night had to do with teams manipulating their cap, trying to clear cap space, making trades for players that don't have much of an impact but have more of an impact on the numbers. Beyond the first few picks, you're better off using the draft to set up the rest of your summer.
And to that point, we got Brooklyn, New York, the Lakers, the Clippers, 7 max available spots for those teams. Then add in Philly, and you got Kyrie, Clay. We know the list. It's going to be a fascinating summer to see where all these players end up.
How much sleep do guys like you get over the next 2 weeks?
Well, actually, this weekend you get some, and this build up into free agency, it's a little dry, but then it's over.
What is the likelihood anybody other than Zion Williamson is Rookie of the Year this season?
Very slim. He's talented, and he's going into a situation where he's going to be in.
Summer League, it's all coming. We'll see you for all of it here on NBA TV.
As fans, we tend to look back at significant moments in sports and think, what if? What if a player wasn't traded, hadn't been drafted, or didn't get hurt? Over the next hour, we'll look at some of the more fascinating draft day decisions and how NBA history might have changed had things gone a little differently.
Every NBA team has a list of regrets. Trades they didn't make or ones they wish they hadn't. A bad free agent signing and, of course, completely missing on draft day. But one of the biggest regrets might be the Nets passing on Kobe Bryant during the 1996 draft.
Good evening, and welcome to the 1996 NBA Draft at the Continental Airlines Arena, home of the New Jersey Nets.
The 1996 draft was one of the deepest and most anticipated in NBA history. The class included a lightning-quick point guard, a long athletic big, and an intriguing group of international prospects. But perhaps the most captivating was also the class's second youngest, a skinny 6'6" wing with explosive talent, but just 17 and barely out of high school.
I was at the draft, which ironically was held in East Rutherford at the Nets home arena. At that point, taking a high school player was considered a huge risk. This was not the norm. Kevin Garnett had been taken a year earlier in the top 5 by Minnesota, and Garnett had a good rookie year, but you didn't sense at that point that this was a once-in-a-lifetime player.
As for the Nets in the next slot, I think they're going to go for Kerry Kittles, but if they've got the courage, I know John Calipari loves Kobe Bryant. Go for it, John.
John Calipari knows high school players. I think we've seen throughout the years he does a pretty good job picking high school players, whether he's at UMass, Memphis, or Kentucky. I think he made a big mistake. He should have, you know what, rolled the dice, take Kobe Bryant.
John Calipari had just gotten the job as not only the head coach of the Nets, but in charge of player personnel. So his first major move was this 1996 draft. They loved Kobe Bryant. They had worked him out 3 times. They were blown away by his talent, but they didn't pull the trigger.
With the 8th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the New Jersey Nets select Kerry Kittles.
They passed on Kobe Bryant because his agent at the time, Arn Tellem, scared them out of taking him, basically. They wanted to take him. Everybody wanted to take him. Calipari wanted to take him. John Nash's GM wanted to take him. But he didn't want to go to New Jersey. He didn't want to play for the Nets.
I get all that. But your job is to take the best player you can. And John Calipari knew that Kobe Bryant, even though he was coming out of high school, looked like he could be a special player.
So we got the player we wanted. We dabbled with some other guys, but that was a guy that I felt very good about and could play 2 positions.
John, were you not listening to Peter Vesey when he said Kobe Bryant is your guy? Where did Kobe Bryant enter the equation?
Well, we really like Kobe, and I think he's going to be a terrific player, and I think he's going to be a terrific player in the NBA. But for us right now, where we are and what we needed, I felt in the end it was Kerry Kittles.
He made it clear through his agent, Arn Tellem, who at the time was the most powerful agent in the NBA and had any number of huge clients throughout the league. He told them that he didn't want them to take Kobe Bryant. And if they had taken Kobe, that Kobe would go play in Europe. And he could have gone and played in Europe for a year and then come back and re-entered the draft the following year.
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant.
Well, it was interesting. It was not only the Nets that passed on Kobe Bryant, 11 other teams passed on Kobe Bryant. And at the time, it was very clear that Kobe Bryant was a very special talent, even though at that time he was a high school player making a direct jump to the NBA right out of high school.
Well, here's a copy of The Sting, the official book of the Charlotte Hornets, with your new coach, Dave Cowens, on the cover. Do your homework before you show up at the Hive.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure I will.
All right, congratulations, Ernie.
Although the Hornets drafted Bryant, within an hour of their selection, reports swirled of a trade. Charlotte was ready to ship away his rights.
Sources have told me that the Charlotte Hornets have traded Kobe Bryant to the Lakers. The best confirmation that I could get out of the Lakers was that we're very interested in Kobe, but we have not made a deal yet. We might see this be a small deal for maybe Anthony Peeler, or it could escalate into something big involving Vlade Divac.
The reality was he was 17 years old. And I don't know if at that point he was in a position to dictate anything. And I think also he got caught up in the behind-the-scenes machinations that happen on draft day when a powerful agent has an idea of where he'd like his client to be. And Jerry West, who was running the Lakers at the time, showed interest and saw stardom.
But what if Bryant had been playing alongside Kidd instead of against him? and his agent to play in New Jersey.
Well, look, in retrospect, in hindsight, you go, okay, this was a generational talent. So if he becomes a generational talent there, then everything changes, you know, because then people want to play with him. The state's going to come up with money to build an arena there. Everything changes. Calipari may still be there.
I would say this about Kobe. To me, he always came across as very loyal. And there was that moment where maybe he was going to get traded from the Lakers. So maybe if he had played in New Jersey, it wasn't that far from where he grew up in Lower Merion, Pennsylvania, it could have changed a lot of things.
Had Kobe been in New Jersey, you think about a team that really needed some excitement in a city that really wasn't glamorous. I think Kobe would have turned things around immediately, and they would have done a pretty good job of trying to put a better supporting cast than the New Jersey Nets ever had.
2001, Kobe Bryant and Stephon Marbury had a duel for the ages. It was the best I've ever seen Stephon Marbury play. Scored 50 points, but eventually Kobe Bryant and the Lakers won the game. After the game, we get Kobe Bryant as the post-game interview, and he's asked flat out, would you have accepted the fact that the Nets drafted you?
Well, it's pretty much my agent, Arn Tellem, just being Arn Tellem. I love to play so much, I would have played in Mars. You know, but they didn't draft me, so I'm a Laker. But if they would have drafted me, I've been playing for the Nets.
The Nets were this close to getting Kobe Bryant and building their franchise around him.
In 2001, New Jersey traded for Jason Kidd, who immediately led the Nets, including Kittles, to back-to-back Eastern Conference titles. They would lose both finals, including one to Kobe's Lakers. But what if Bryant had been playing alongside Kidd instead of against him?
It would have been amazing. The phenomenon, I think, of Kobe Bryant and how he evolved into what he is, and knowing Jason Kidd like I do as a former teammate of mine, I think he would have scored 40,000 points in his career just because Jason will put him in positions to succeed.
Kidd really changed the entire culture of the team. The Nets were thirsting for credibility, leadership. Kidd provided that. And the team they built around Kidd was perfect for Jason. Run up and down the floor, transition, fast, get easy baskets, take advantage of his versatility. With Kobe, you're talking about two maestros, and it would have been basketball magic.
We're in the last 3 minutes. Kidd, big lob, Bryant. You know, the ball goes up. It's like a feeding frenzy. Three guys go for the alley-oop. I'm surprised we haven't had any mid-air collisions. The guy's knocking themselves out.
Can you imagine the combination of Jason and Kobe, two unbelievably competitive guys, and Jason wanting to push guys, make them better? Maybe Kobe gets more than one MVP if he had played with Jason all those years.
I think he would have really been a good for Kobe, and they would have enhanced each other's games. But I think Jason Kidd is that type of a guy, like a Derek Fisher, who had the ability to talk to Kobe authentically and talk to him straight up and get the best out of each other.
In 2004, the Nets acquired Vince Carter from the Raptors. What if New Jersey could have added Vinsanity to a J-Kidd-Kobe combo?
Oh, man, it's just hard to imagine. I mean, I just imagine I'm on one wing and then you bring somebody like Kobe Bryant. You just throw it up there and it's whoever gets there first type thing. And, of course, his ability to score, J-Kidd's ability to pass, you know, I'll go above the rim. It's just... You have the best of all worlds, really.
Here's the alley-oop.
Oh, that was incredible.
Yeah, that would have been a pretty good fantasy basketball team. Vince Carter, Jason Kidd, and Kobe Bryant. I think that would have been a pretty spectacular team to watch.
So they had some talent there. So if they have Kobe Bryant with that talent, maybe they coalesce, maybe they challenge the Bulls. But I know one thing that wouldn't have happened, the Lakers don't win 3 straight, obviously.
Kobe Bryant was still a risk because of his age, you know, his youth, his lack of experience, and just his physical stature at the time was not that of an NBA player. So who knew that he would be as great as he was, have a Hall of Fame career, and fortunately for the Los Angeles Lakers, it turned out that he was.
What you don't know is whether he would have become a generational player playing for the New Jersey. He would have been great, probably, but would he have been one of the greatest of all time? It's hard to say because he wouldn't have played with Shaq. He wouldn't have played for Phil Jackson. Those are things that really formed him as a great, great player.
If Kobe Bryant is drafted by the Nets and becomes a star, the Nets probably never leave the state of New Jersey. They probably build an arena in Newark. They build their team around Kobe Bryant. Maybe John Calipari never goes back to college and never coaches Kentucky. And the domino effect is remarkable in how much that one decision changed so many basketball lives.
Coming up on What If, an historic draft, 2 generational talents, and a trade that might have changed the NBA as we know it.
Not only are they transcendent superstars, but they're complementary transcendent superstars. As it is, they combined for 8 championships. Put them together and they pretty much could have named the total.
This summer, you could check everything off the to-do list. Like book a table at the hottest new restaurant. Update your wardrobe with some brand new kicks. Go see the biggest shows at the coolest venues. Pack everything you can into every single day. Or you could take it from summer's favorite beer and just throw that checklist to the breeze and let yourself summer.
Do your countertops look like this? There's never enough space or power outlets. Introducing Socket Shelf by Sharper Image. The